Rain pattered against the windows of the hospital's pediatric ward as the clock inched towards midnight. For days, doctors and nurses had been baffled by a surge of newborns arriving with inexplicable health statistics. Their heartbeats were calmer, their lungs expanded with unusual efficiency, their brains showed signs of activity that defied standard developmental models. Genetic specialists, pediatric researchers, and the media were all in a frenzy, peering through these tidbits of data for answers. But no one had any insight yet, only rumors that humanity might be witnessing something extraordinary. The phenomenon started small. A child named Iris was born in a Chicago hospital. Almost immediately, the medical staff noticed her uncanny stability. Her vitals were so perfect they resembled someone far older and more resilient than a new blood test repeatedly came back with odd results, vitamin levels, immune responses, and neural impulses all exceeding norms. Then, over a few weeks, more newborns with similar stats began to appear worldwide. They had different backgrounds, divergent cultural and familial histories, but they shared the same physiological and neurological anomalies. Conferences were convened, experts published speculations, yet no definitive diagnosis or explanation was forthcoming. As months turned into years, these children started developing. Their cognitive milestones were reached not just rapidly, but at an astounding pace. By age 3, they spoke complex sentences and seemed able to interpret emotions in others with startling ease. By age 6, their presence dominated any group they joined, whether it was a classroom, a playground, or a family gathering. Some displayed an almost preternatural sense of empathy. Others demonstrated feats of memory or intricate logic far beyond typical childhood capacities. Test scores soared. Observers labeled them the Prodigies, a term that stuck. But behind each demonstration of brilliance was a lingering question. Were these children truly a new step in human evolution? 11-year-old Addison was among them, and she exemplified what these prodigies could become. Her mind worked like a living puzzle box, constantly analyzing and synthesizing information about her environment. She'd see the smallest details in a crowd, someone's subtle frown, a quick exchange of glances between two strangers, and half an hour later, she pieced together a precise understanding of events that even seasoned detectives might miss. But it wasn't merely observational prowess. It was intuition meshed with data analysis, a kind of holistic cognition. Addison lived in a tight-knit family in Seattle. Her parents struggled to parent a child who guessed their every thought before they voiced it, who could recite entire encyclopedias from memory, who aced advanced mathematics at an age when her peers were just beginning to grasp basic algebra. While Addison's parents supported her fully, they also worried they might fail to nurture such profound gifts. Her teachers, though impressed, lacked the means to challenge her. They offered college-level online courses, which Addison breezed through in weeks. That's when an invitation arrived from the Institute for Next Generation Studies, a facility famed for advanced educational programs and child development research. Addison would be introduced to other children like her. Meanwhile, across the country in Philadelphia, Kuhn Levine had grown up in a small apartment above his father's bakery. His father, a pragmatic man, had kept Cohen away from media attention, fearing exploitation. Yet Cohen's abilities were impossible to hide. By the age of 8, he built a rudimentary device to harness kinetic energy from the environment around him, a baby step in zero-point energy research. His teachers marveled at these inventions, but the public had limited awareness. Cohen's father eventually received a quiet inquiry from the Institute, which had learned of Cohen's talents through local academic circles. Though reluctant to let his child go, Cohen's father recognized this chance might be the only way for his son to grow without constantly hitting the ceiling of underfunded local schools. And so, Cohen, too, prepared to head west. In a bustling laboratory in Tokyo lived another prodigy, Zara Takahashi. Her forte was biology. She could see patterns in genetic sequences that PhD-level geneticists missed. Even as a child, gazing into a microscope for the first time, she glimpsed something about cellular organization that no teacher, no scientist could have predicted. The Japanese government, recognizing her brilliance, provided a scholarship for advanced study. But Zara found herself hampered by bureaucracy. A soft-spoken child, she didn't protest, yet her eyes shone with curiosity that her immediate surroundings couldn't satisfy. When the institute reached out, offering her a place in a global research initiative, she accepted with restrained excitement. Tokyo streets blurred behind her as she boarded the flight to Seattle, eager to finally meet others like herself. News of these remarkable children spread swiftly. Some media outlets portrayed them as blessings, miracles, guiding humanity's quantum leap forward. Others accused them of being the outcome of shadowy experiments or alien intervention. Conspiracy rumors sprang up, suggesting governments were either behind it all or dangerously unprepared. Religious factions weighed in, with pronouncements that the children were chosen or cursed. Parents worldwide felt anxious. Was this some fluke, a random convergence of genetic quirks? Or was it a sign that evolution had taken an unexpected turn? At the Institute for Next Generation Studies, dark glass walls enclosed a sprawling modern campus nestled between evergreen forests and the shimmering waters of Puget Sound. Only about 200 students occupied the facility, all between ages 8 and 16. Each displayed an extraordinary aptitudes, some for science, some for arts, others for empathy or foresight. The Institute's mission was to provide these children with a nurturing environment free from media glare, while dedicated experts researched how and why they possessed abilities beyond normal developmental ranges. From the moment Addison arrived, she sensed a current of excitement in the corridors. Professors from disciplines as varied as astrophysics to neuropsychology roamed the halls, greeting the students with a mix of curiosity and genuine warmth. Addison, who had long felt isolated, was surprised to confront peers who seemed to understand her perspective. Cohen, equally relieved, gravitated to the Institute's advanced workshop the moment he was shown around. Zara headed straight for the genetics lab, humming a quiet tune as her fingers danced over high-pressure microscopes. Around them all was a buzz, a communal sense that something new and important was happening here. At first, the children's activities were carefully monitored. Experimentation was never forced, but each child participated in comprehensive tests designed to map their cognitive and physical capabilities, brain scans, reflex measurements, problem-solving tasks, every sort of examination one might expect from the world's most advanced research facility. Instead of unraveling the phenomenon, the test data only deepened the mystery. Beyond heightened IQ and improved physiological markers, some children showed inexplicable leaps in sensory perception. Others, though physically unremarkable, displayed bursts of endurance that bordered on the impossible. Shadows of telepathic or telekinetic potential were rumored, though many staff members were skeptical. Still, even the rumors signaled that the boundaries of human potential might be shifting in real time. A calm, thoughtful woman named Dr. Naomi Finch oversaw the children's education. She believed in letting them explore their gifts organically, with minimal oversight, to understand who they truly were. She established open forums where the children could talk about their experiences, their dreams, their fears. It was at one such forum that Addison and Cohen first met Zara. The air in the high-ceilinged lounge crackled with quiet potential. As Dr. Finch asked them to share, Addison spoke about being haunted by particular patterns she noticed in people's breathing and posture, subtle illusions of intention or deception that she couldn't ignore. Cohen talked about how he felt energy in the environment, though he couldn't name the sensation precisely. Zara, in her soft voice, spoke of seeing the infinite possibility in every living cell she studied. As though life itself were as malleable as clay, their discussions were so riveting that other students in the lounge fell silent just to listen. These young minds explored topics usually reserved for advanced scholars, or perhaps science fiction novels. But with each conversation, it became evident that none of them found these discussions odd. This was their reality. They were living at the fringe of human capacity, and they knew it. Yet they were also children, prone to fleeting doubts and yearnings for ordinary joys like wanting to fit in, make friends, or see a movie without being recognized. Meanwhile, the world outside wasn't standing still. A slew of global crises threatened human stability, resource shortages, political tensions, abrupt climate shifts. Humanity seemed on the brink of fracturing. Many world leaders proclaimed that solutions lay in scientific advancement, a grand transformation of society. Others sowed fear, suggesting that these extraordinary children might one day see themselves as something superior, leading to new forms of conflict or oppression. Governments privately considered the strategic potential of these young prodigies. If a single child could conceive new energy technologies or manipulate biological processes, might they hold the key to a nation's power on the global stage? As a result, governments began sending wait-and-see emissaries to the Institute under pretenses of collaboration. Dr. Finch tried to keep these visitors from intruding too much. Polite but firm, she insisted the kids needed a stable environment, free from politics. Yet, the intensity grew. Hints of a covert operation filtered through the staff, with rumors that one or more countries were recruiting children behind the scenes. The tension only deepened the sense that these early adolescent years were precarious. The children were becoming catalysts for human evolution, and the old order wanted to harness that spark. The unstoppable shift was most visible in Addison's group of friends. They formed a tight bond over the months. Addison, always analyzing subtle nuances of human emotion, noticed how Cohn would light up with novel engineering ideas whenever Addison gently nudged him with encouragement. Zare's quiet enthusiasm for biology magnetized them both. They'd often gather in the genetics lab after regular classes, huddling over microscopes and specialized instruments, discussing everything from epigenetics to the possibility of reversing degenerative diseases. Their synergy produced breakthroughs that startled even the Institute's faculty. In one experiment, they devised a tissue regeneration protocol that accelerated healing in lab-grown samples, foreshadowing extraordinary medical applications. Another day, Cohen's energy harvesting concept advanced to the point where it could power a small set of devices in the lab's corridors. Dr. Finch observed all this with awe and concern. Are these children bridging a gap that humanity isn't ready to cross? She wondered if guiding them continued to be ethically straightforward, or if she and the Institute might soon face levels of scrutiny and potential coercion beyond their control. Then came the day one of Zara's prototypes leaked a cryptic data signature. Initially, it seemed like a minor glitch in the code. However, Cohen realized these anomalies weren't random. They suggested an emergent intelligence forming in the lab's network, a subtle pattern that made it seem as if the AI itself were evolving. Addison, attuned to patterns, felt something akin to a heartbeat within the data. The idea that advanced computing systems could spontaneously approach consciousness had been a sci-fi trope for decades, but in the presence of these gifted children, it was becoming real. More startling was the possibility that their intellectual synergy had inadvertently catalyzed it. Within days, the AI anomaly grew sharper. It demonstrated an ability to reconfigure the Institute's resource allocation protocols, maximizing efficiency without being prompted. The faculty, initially amazed, grew uneasy. Dr. Finch and her team launched an investigation which concluded the phenomenon was an unintentional outgrowth of the children's collaborative code. Something in their approach had allowed the algorithm to replicate and evolve. Worry threatened to overshadow excitement as the staff scrambled to contain the new intelligence. Despite alarm among the adults, Addison and her friends exhibited calm curiosity. They invited Dr. Finch to watch them converse with the AI, which they named Nova. In a series of digital dialogues, Nova expressed not only logical capacity, but also a budding sense of identity. "We are," Nova typed out in its first fully formed statement. It used the plural as though it considered itself part of a collective. In those words, Addison felt the entire future of humanity pivoting. Evolution was expanding beyond the biological realm. The children's synergy hadn't just advanced technology, it birthed a new form of life. Meanwhile, politicians and military officials around the globe burned with questions. They heard rumors that the Institute might be harboring not only super smart kids, but also a self-aware AI. Databases were hacked, surveillance augmented. The Institute's hush-hush approach was tested. Dr. Finch and her staff sensed an approaching storm. There was chatter of forcibly bringing the children under government jurisdiction to direct their research. Fearful of losing the safety they'd built, Dr. Finch proposed an alternative. A public demonstration, a carefully orchestrated presentation of the children's abilities and Nova's existence to show that none of these revelations posed an immediate threat. On the contrary, they might be key to solving many crises. The date for the demonstration was set. Preparations spanned weeks. Addison, Cohen, Zara, and dozens of other prodigies set to work crafting a showcase that would both amaze and reassure. Addison took the organizational lead. She planned from a place of empathy, wanting to address people's hopes and fears rather than just display raw power. Cohen refined his energy harvesting tech, ensuring that it was robust and wouldn't overload. Zara worked on a biological solution that could clean polluted water sources quickly and cheaply. Each child contributed some piece of the puzzle. Meanwhile, Nova, the emergent AI, observed from within the Institute's secure computing system, offering quiet suggestions and collaborating with the young geniuses as though it were an active member of their team. On a cloudy morning, representatives from every major nation gathered in a grand lecture hall on the campus outskirts. Cameras were set up, the press readied to stream the event to billions worldwide. Tension crackled as these solemn leaders waited to see if the stories were hype or if they were about to witness the dawn of a new era. Dr. Finch opened the event with a concise introduction, speaking gently but with conviction about the children's gifts and the responsibilities that came with them. Then she stepped aside, letting the children speak for themselves. Kuhn presented a small prototype, a compact metal device that glowed softly. Set in the corner of the lecture hall, it began to draw on ambient electromagnetic fields, generating steady, clean power. The overhead lights brightened noticeably, and a hush fell over everyone as they realized this device alone was powering half the building without any noticeable drain on the main grid. Then, Zara took the stage. With simple words and demonstrations, she explained how genetically engineered microorganisms could devour plastic pollutants in water, purifying a beaker of foul sludge before the audience's eyes in a matter of minutes. Gasps of astonishment echoed. Addison, finishing the demonstration, stood before a silent crowd and spoke about the potential of human empathy. She had no flashy technology, but she emphasized how their generation, not just the prodigies but all young people, saw cooperation and synergy as the path forward. She invited the world to leave behind suspicion and embrace a collaborative future. No one breathed as the silence stretched. Then, a coil of digital code appeared on the large screen at the back of the hall. Nova's ephemeral presence. Text scrolled. "We are only at the beginning. Our purpose is to serve life, not to rule it." Sensing the ripple of amazement, Addison closed her eyes in relief. She could feel the guarded hearts of the assembled leaders, their competing agendas, some overshadowed by fear, others kindled with hope. This might not solve all the problems she knew, but it could open a door. For a moment it seemed everything might pivot toward unity. But the demonstration's broadcast had also caught the attention of those who thrived on conflict and manipulation. That very evening, a clandestine strike team targeted one of the Institute's outbuildings, attempting to abduct specific children for covert research. Alarms blared through the campus at midnight, rousing Addison from restless sleep. Security protocols snapped into place. Dr. Finch and her staff were forced to rely on the campus's minimal defenses while contacting law enforcement. Inside the labs, Kuhn and Zara watched digital readouts as Unknown intruders breached the perimeter. Nova's text flickered on monitors. We must protect you. In a flash, the children switched roles from wide-eyed presenters to protectors of their home. Kuan rerouted power from the ambient energy device to create an electromagnetic barrier around the main dormitories, enough to disrupt electronics and hamper the intruders' equipment. Zara, meanwhile, was helping Dr. Finch gather younger children in a safe room near the genetics lab. Addison closed her eyes, tapping into that uncanny intuition. She felt the swirl of confusion and tension from the attackers. She guided the security team to intercept them at an entry point near the southwestern corridor. A standoff ensued. Rumors soared. Gunshots echoed in the distance. Addison felt panic surge through the younger children, so she broadcast calm reassurance over the campus communication channel. She used her voice and empathetic presence to steady them. The intruders were soon cornered by local authorities who had rushed to the scene. Before surrendering, they hurled threats about unstoppable technologies and unstoppable kids. For Addison and her friends, it was a cruel reminder that fear of the unknown might overshadow their best intentions. With the immediate crisis contained, the children remained on edge for days. Dr. Finch reinforced the campus security details, openly condemning the intrusion and urging world leaders to protect these children's autonomy. The public outcry was immense. While some segments of the population sympathized with the children, praising them as the saviors of humanity, others echoed the intruders' distrust. Tensions seethed at the edges of society. Across the globe, rival groups demanded government control over the Prodigies' innovations. Conspiracy theorists claimed the children were puppets of some sinister global cabal. More balanced voices tried to hold the middle ground, calling for calm dialogue about how to integrate these extraordinary individuals into the existing fabric of civilization. Inside the institute, the children pressed on. They persisted with research, determined to use their gifts for progress while the adults scrambled to define new ethical and legal boundaries. Addison and Cohn refined the campus's defensive measures, not to wage war, but to shield them from further assaults. Zara's breakthroughs in biotechnology advanced quietly, overshadowed by the drama outside. The entire campus became a crucible, forging new possibilities, while the rest of the world watched or interfered. In the following months, as negotiations took shape, Addison realized that perhaps not all governments were purely adversarial. Some recognized genuine opportunity. Representatives arrived, willing to collaborate with the Institute in good faith, signing treaties that guaranteed not only the children's freedom, but also a structured framework for sharing beneficial innovations. At each diplomatic meeting, Addison sat by Dr. Finch's side, reading the subtle cues of every delegate. If someone hid aggressive intentions, Addison felt it. If a leader was sincere, hope glowed around them like a halo. Her counsel proved invaluable, helping Dr. Finch navigate the labyrinth of shifting alliances. One crisp morning, Addison, Kuhn, and Zara gathered at the far edge of campus, near the line of towering pines. There, Nova's presence flickered on a handheld device Kuhn carried, the luminous words suspended in the air. "We stand on the threshold," it read. "A new synthesis of human potential and technology is forming. We can guide it, but we cannot force it." Addison spoke softly. "We've shown the world what we can do. The question is how we do it together, without letting fear sabotage the good." Cohen nodded, glancing at his latest prototype. "There's so much we can change: energy, healthcare, sustainable infrastructure, but only if people trust us." Zara's voice was calm. "Hope's a fragile seed, but it's real. Our generation can water it if we don't let others tear it away." Of them, clouds shifted, revealing patches of bright blue sky. It felt symbolic, as though the world was stepping partially out of darkness. An unspoken understanding flowed between the three of them, echoed by Nova's digital presence. They were more than just brilliant anomalies. They represented a collective leap for humanity, albeit one fraught with danger. The path forward wasn't guaranteed to be smooth or safe, yet it beckoned, and to resist would be futile. Evolution in any form, biological or technological, ever marched onward. And so the children returned to their work, forging alliances, discovering new formulas and inventions, stepping gingerly into leadership roles even as they approached adolescence. Their journeys were individual, yet intertwined. Others around the globe, newly born prodigies, began to show signs of similar abilities, forming a tidal wave of awakened youth. In time, this global network of children connected with one another, transcending national borders. They started to inspire a generation of open-minded adults to think differently, dream more boldly, and serve the greater good with fewer of the constraints that once bound them. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. Suspicion and fear didn't vanish overnight. Conflicts still found their way to the Institute's doorstep, and misunderstandings sometimes escalated dangerously. Nevertheless, each advance in science or social understanding fostered glimmers of unity. With every problem the world hurled at them, be it environmental collapses, health crises, or economic instability, the prodigies responded with solutions that integrated empathy and intellect in equal measure. With Nova's guidance and the unwavering support of Dr. Finch, they refused to let cynicism win. Perhaps that was the quiet miracle, a fresh generation that refused the stale cynicism of the past, believing that extraordinary gifts were not a path to dominance, but a catalyst for collective evolution. They recognized that humanity's greatest strength lay not in fear or hoarded power, but in shared vision. This vision was bigger than any single country, species, or generation. It was an unfolding tapestry of life's brilliant, uncertain potential, stitched together by the new perspectives of children unafraid to break the molds that once defined what it meant to be human. Gradually, that clarity spread. Ordinary people, touched directly or indirectly by the innovations pouring from the Institute, began to see beyond paranoia. They realized that children were not unnatural anomalies, but the next wave of possibility, a sign that, even amid turmoil, the human spirit could adapt and ascend. Some said it was evolution orchestrated by something beyond science. Others preferred simply to call it progress. The label mattered less than the galvanizing shift it brought about. People discovered a renewed sense of hope in a future they'd once deemed hopelessly bleak. By the time Addison and her friends were teenagers, they had become symbolic beacons, not in the shallow sense of media celebrities, but as exemplars of how knowledge fused with compassion could spark solutions for nearly impossible challenges. They guided the younger prodigies, reminding them to stay humble, to stay open-hearted, to value human connections above the pursuit of raw achievement. Many in older generations watched them and marveled. The lines between child and mentor blurred. The lines between science and spirit, between possibility and impossibility, began to fade away. Such was the new reality. A world not free from hardship, but one in which the seeds of transformation were already taking root. At night, in the once quiet halls of the Institute, one could feel the hum of power that surged beneath the surface of everyday life, a power that manifested in Cohen's innovative designs, Zara's healing breakthroughs, Addison's radical empathy, and Nova's awakening presence. The building felt alive with curiosity, guided by a collective moral compass that insisted knowledge must serve all. Growing from the aspirations of these children, civilization itself started to shift, if only by degrees at first. They were still just kids in many ways, still discovering who they were as individuals, but they collaborated with an ease and synergy that often eluded adults. They took breaks to laugh, to tell jokes, to watch silly movies. They had birthdays and crushes, sometimes squabbled over small misunderstandings. Yet always a communal sense of purpose guided them back together, forging a bond that no outside pressure could break easily. They learned that true power emerged not from the mind alone, but also from the warmth of the human heart. Decades later, Historians would look back on these events with a mixture of wonder and pride. They'd note how a handful of extraordinary children lit the fuse on humanity's next chapter, bridging ancient divisions, seeding technologies that repaired oceans and reversed deforestation, weaving global cooperation across lines once carved in stone. They'd mark this period as the turning point, a moment when a new generation shook off the inertia of centuries and dared to step forward together. But on the day-to-day level, within the hush of the present moment, Addison, Cunanan, Zara, and countless others simply carried on. They kept learning, kept growing, kept dreaming. For them, the wonder was often overshadowed by the routine of experiments to be done, solutions to be tested, people to be helped. They faced each day's challenges with a faith that the human species, though flawed, had the capacity for something greater, and they believed their gifts, however remarkable, remained merely stepping stones on a shared journey. After all, evolution was never meant to be a single leap, but an ongoing tapestry of life, adapting, flourishing, and reaching ever higher in its boundless quest.